There is something you've been feeling for a while, but you've never been able to explain it fully. It's a silent discomfort, a knot in your chest, a tiredness that isn't related to your body. And no, it's not stress. It's not anxiety. It's something else. It's the result of having allowed too much, of having bowed your head so many times that you no longer remember what it was like to hold it high. And the worst part, you think it's normal. You've been taught to swallow, to endure, to not make noise. You were told that if you were good, if you were patient, if you were understanding, everything would be fine. A lie. What really happened is that you became an emotional sponge for everything others couldn't handle. You were the easy prey for toxic behaviors that, over time, made you even doubt your own worth. And now, when something makes you uncomfortable, you don't know if it's a legitimate reaction or if you're just becoming too sensitive. Spoiler, it's not sensitivity, it's intuition. It's your mind screaming for help. Carl Jung saw it before anyone else. He dedicated his life to diving into the depths of the human psyche, and what he found was terrifying. Most of our suffering doesn't come from great traumas, but from what we allow in the everyday. From the small poisons, from the gestures we overlook, from the attitudes we normalize, from the boundaries we don't defend. Jung understood that what you don't confront stays inside, and what stays inside rots you. This video is not comfortable. It's not made for you to feel good. It's made for you to wake up, for you to see, with brutal clarity, the 7 behaviors that Jung pointed out as unacceptable. Not because they are morally wrong, but because they are a direct threat to your identity, your integrity, your mental health. They're like termites. They work in silence from within until one day you look in the mirror and don't know who you are anymore. But I warn you, these behaviors don't come with a label. They don't scream. They don't present themselves as monsters. They disguise themselves as love, as friendship, as concern, as humor. And if you're not paying attention, you accept them. And when you accept them once, they repeat. And every repetition kills something in you. That's why you're here. Not out of curiosity, not for entertainment. You're here because something inside you knows it's enough. That you can't keep swallowing. That you need to name what you've been carrying. That you need to stop allowing. And no, this isn't just about others. It's also about you. Because some of these behaviors, you've also exercised them. And that's why they hurt so much. Because you don't just suffer from them, you repeat them. Not because you're bad, but because no one taught you to see them. No one told you that this too is violence, that this too distances you from yourself. But today, you're going to see it. Today, behavior by behavior, you'll discover what Jung tried to warn us about. And when you finish this video, you won't look at certain people the same way, nor yourself. And yes, that's going to hurt, but it will also set you free. Are you ready? Because once you start, you won't be able to go back. Some things seem small until they destroy you. Sometimes it starts with a gesture, an ambiguous phrase, an unsolicited piece of advice, something seemingly harmless. But if you repeat it over and over, if you let it go, it becomes the norm. And that's when you're no longer yourself. You are what others have molded in silence while you thought you were deciding. Covert emotional manipulation. Carl Jung warned us of the silent enemy. It doesn't arrive shouting. It doesn't arrive with chains. It arrives with tenderness, with phrases disguised as concern. I'm saying this for your own good. If you really loved me, you would do this. I don't understand why it affects you so much. And then you start to doubt. First, you doubt the situation, then your perception. In the end, you doubt yourself, because the master manipulator doesn't need to impose themselves. They just need you to start questioning yourself. This isn't love. This isn't friendship. It's control disguised as affection. And the worst part is that it often comes from people you love, and that makes it more poisonous because you confuse loyalty with resignation. Jung explained it with chilling bluntness. People will do whatever it takes, however absurd it may seem, to avoid facing their own soul. And what better way to avoid it than by shaping yours? Emotional manipulation feeds on your silence, on your misunderstood upbringing, on your fear of losing the other. But what you're really losing is yourself. And when they've tamed you enough, when they know you won't respond, that your resistance is weak, then they cross another line. Humiliation disguised as humor. Not content with molding your mind, they seek to distort your image in front of others. And they do it in the most cowardly way, through laughter. Because when control is no longer enough, the next step comes. More hurtful, more public, more twisted. It's not a direct insult. It's a comment thrown into the air, a mockery with a smile, a phrase said as a joke, but with a blade that cuts, and everyone laughs, except you. But you also force yourself to laugh, because you know that if you don't, you'll be pointed out as the bitter one, the one who can't fit in, the one who has no sense of humor. The trap is set. If you get upset, the problem is you. If you stay quiet, you allow it to continue. And meanwhile, every joke drives another splinter into your self-esteem. Jung knew that the unconscious doesn't distinguish between play and reality. What is repeated gets embedded. That's why mockery, though it seems harmless, is a form of symbolic violence. A way of putting you below, of reducing you, of marking you as the weak one in the group. And the darkest part, those who practice this covert mockery the most tend to be insecure. They use laughter as a weapon because they fear facing their own emptiness. They attack others because their shadow whispers that they are less, but you're not obliged to be the target of their demons. You didn't come into this world so others could unload on you what they don't know how to process. And if you allow that, if you normalize it, you open the door to something even more sinister. Gaslighting. When someone feels they can laugh at you with no consequences, the next thing they do is more subtle, more psychological, and much more corrosive. They start sowing doubt about your own perception. They deny what they've said. They accuse you of imagining things. They minimize your emotions. That never happened. You're exaggerating. You always make a drama. The worst part of gaslighting isn't what they say to you. It's what starts to happen inside of you. Because the mind, for survival, starts to adapt to the other's lie. Jung spoke of this as internal betrayal. The exact moment when you start to distrust yourself, and when you doubt what you feel, what you remember, what you intuit, you're lost. You become a prisoner of someone else's mind, a mind that manipulates yours and does it without you realizing it. Gaslighting is a silent war. There are no screams, no blows, just a dense fog that settles inside you. until one day you no longer know if the problem is you or everything you're allowing. Systematic emotional invalidation. Here's the most macabre part. When they manage to install that confusion, when you no longer know what's real, they do something even more perverse. They start using your vulnerability against you. You tell them something that hurts you, and they discard it. You explain how you feel, and they ridicule it. You're always on about the same thing. It's not that big a deal. You're just complicating things. Every time someone invalidates your inner world, what they're really saying is, your emotions are inconvenient, annoying, exaggerated, that you should feel less, be quieter. And then you learn to swallow everything, to not express, to not bother. You become a mutilated version of yourself, someone who lives so others won't feel uncomfortable. Does it sound familiar? Jung said that when we repress our emotions, they don't disappear, they rot. And they manifest later as anxiety, insomnia, uncontrolled anger, or nameless sadness. They don't disappear, they transform. And when they do, they pull you further away from who you once were. But it doesn't end with the emotional, silent contempt. Because once you've been manipulated, ridiculed, confused, and invalidated, the coldest blow comes. The most calculated, the most devastating. That gesture, that glance, that intentional absence, the lack of response, the surgical precision of ignoring you. They don't shout at you. They don't insult you. They simply erase you. But you're there, existing, screaming inside, knowing they're punishing you with their silence. That every minute that passes without a word from them is another wound in your need for connection. And this is where many break. Because contempt doesn't need explanations. It just drags you. It makes you feel invisible, irrelevant, as if your existence depended on a response that never comes. And if you've reached this point, if you've endured all of this without exploding, then you're no longer the same person. You no longer trust. You no longer speak. You no longer feel the same. Do you see where this is going? Jung warned, what you deny subjugates you. What you accept transforms you. And all of this that you've been tolerating is exactly what's subjugating you. But we're not done yet. 2 more behaviors remain. The most dangerous, the most insidious. The ones that, if you don't detect them in time, not only destroy you, but turn you into one of them. Do you want to continue? Because what comes next is even darker. So far, we've talked about what they do to you, how they mold, distort, and manipulate your perception. But what follows is not just an aggression against you. It's an infection that, if you don't detect it in time, will seep into your hands, your decisions, your way of looking at the world. The next behavior doesn't just harm you, it transforms you. The normalization of sacrifice as a virtue. This is probably the most applauded, the most disguised, the most socially celebrated. You've been taught since childhood that giving in is loving, that putting others first is noble, that self-sacrifice is a sign of maturity. And so, little by little, you learn to disappear, to put yourself last in your own life. But there's a truth that hurts more than any rejection. Not everything you do for love is healthy. Not everything you tolerate in the name of peace is peaceful. Sometimes what you call sacrifice is submission. It's fear. It's the habit of not existing fully. Jung understood this perfectly. He spoke of the self as the real center of the psyche, and everything that takes you away from that center, everything that nullifies your true impulses, your desires, your boundaries, fragments you. It divides you. It turns you into a distorted reflection of what you once were. But the world applauds you for it, for being accommodating, for not causing trouble, for always being there for everyone. And no one asks you, and when was it your turn? When did you get to yourself? Perpetual sacrifice isn't love, it's self-abandonment. And the most terrible part is that when you make it your identity, you lose yourself. And what happens when someone loses themselves completely? When they no longer have a voice, or a center, or boundaries? This happens. Acceptance of contempt as the price for belonging. This is the end of the road, the deepest hole. It's when, after so much manipulation, humiliation, confusion, invalidation, silence, and self-abandonment, you decide that belonging at any cost is better than being alone with your truth. And you resign yourself. You accept crumbs. You tolerate systematic rejection. You justify the unjustifiable. And the most tragic part, you convince yourself that you are the problem, that you deserve this treatment, that you can't aspire to more. Jung described this state as a psychic death, an absolute disconnection from the self. The moment when the person no longer struggles, no longer asks, no longer feels. They just survive. They adapt to mistreatment because they believe there's nothing outside of that. That contempt is the cost of not being alone. That being ignored is better than not being seen at all. But it's not. Nothing. Listen carefully. Nothing is worth betraying yourself every day. Loneliness is hard, yes. But living surrounded by shadows that absorb you, that's hell. You're not here to beg for belonging. You're here to inhabit yourself, to take your place in the world without asking for permission, to rebuild yourself after allowing all of this. And if you've made it this far, you know, you feel every word, because each of these behaviors has left a mark on you. Maybe not all of them, maybe not all the time, but you know what it's like to look in the mirror and not recognize yourself. You know what it's like to stay quiet so someone else doesn't get offended. You know what it's like to feel small in places where you should be your fullest. Now you know them. You can't say you didn't know. 7 behaviors, 7 poisons, 7 ways to destroy yourself with your own consent. Jung didn't write them as a guide. He left them as a warning, like a distant siren in the middle of the fog. So now that you know, what will you do? Because here comes the twist that no one expects. Most people, even after understanding everything, won't change anything. They'll go back to the same environment. They'll go back to the same bonds. They'll go back to the same pattern of self-betrayal. Why? Because it's comfortable. Because it hurts less to stay asleep than to face the void of being authentic. But if you've made it this far, if you've listened to every word, every silence, every shadow, you're not the majority. There's something in you that's starting to burn. You feel it, right? That little flame that says no more. You don't yet know how to do it. You don't have all the answers. But you know, with animal certainty, that something inside you wants to break free. And that's where the real work begins. It's not about pointing fingers at others. It's not about becoming a judge or a professional victim. It's about observing, about looking with coldness, about being absolutely honest with yourself. Where have you tolerated the intolerable? Who have you justified too much? What part of you have you sacrificed to keep being accepted? This is not a self-help video. It's a mirror without filters. And if you can't handle your reflection, it's not because it's broken. It's because you haven't dared to see who you truly are. And listen carefully. If you decide to change, if you decide to cut off these behaviors, get ready to lose things, people, bonds, routines. But don't be mistaken. You won't be losing anything that wasn't already taking away your life. Every loss will be a purge, and what remains after will be the real thing. Yours, solid, what no one can destroy without your permission. Carl Jung didn't write to please. He wrote to awaken. And that's what you've done today. You've opened your eyes. Now, don't close your eyelids. Don't pretend you didn't see what you saw. Don't betray yourself right now. Because there's something no one says, but you'll understand from this moment on. The true power is not that the world respects you. It's that you no longer need it. If this video stirred even a single fiber within you, I want you to do something. Not for me, for you. Leave this phrase in the comments. What you tolerate buries you. Put it, write it, scream it in the form of words. That you will no longer swallow more poison with a smile. That you will no longer negotiate your peace to buy cheap affection. And if you want more content like this, without filters, without masks, where psychology becomes a weapon to free you, subscribe to Psyche Nomad. Not for me, for you. Because every video will be one more bullet against what's silently killing you. Hit the button and turn on the bell. There's no hollow motivation here. Here, there's truth. And that, in a noisy world, is worth gold. And now turn off this video. But don't turn off what just lit up inside of you. Walk differently. Look differently. Tolerate less. Live more. Because remember, the one who wakes up never sleeps again. Until the next shadow. Or until you decide to face it.